Hey, want to take a walk on the wild side and experience the bleeding edge of technology? Then get ready, because it doesn't get much more edgy than this. You're in for a wild ride. You're listening to Sovryn Tech with your host, the man in triple black, the golden stallion of the tech world, Brian Sovryn. He's got a huge brain. And now, here's Brian.
Like gasoline, you're gonna pump me and leave me when you get your fill, like Poison always said. The Golden Stallion here with you for another great episode of Sovryn Tech. And woo boy, as always, do we have a lot to talk about. A lot on the political front to discuss. I want to, before I do that, with this week's show, I really want to wrap up a lot of the security issues, a lot of the hacker issues, things like that. I've really come to the realization that, the Snowden revelations, all that stuff, has really kind of hijacked my show because it seems like everything I talk about has to do with security issues and hacking things and all of that. And it's all very important stuff to talk about, but I created a separate section for the show within which to talk about it. And so, I don't know, maybe there's a lot of people that's what they really want out of the show. And if so, that's great. I'm glad you're listening. But there's other shows you can go to, especially for security issues, like Security Now with Steve Gibson and things like that. So a lot of these ideas I really, really want to wrap up. And I got some emails this week that were pretty comforting in that I got some, clearly there are some very intelligent people in the liberty movement that have some great ideas, which I may talk about, in the future in certain segments of the show. But they have really great ideas, and I'm so glad they're out there, and I hope all of this stuff gets implemented, and I hope it all works out. Because I want to get back, I really, I used to talk about science quite a bit, and I'd like to get back into talking about that more, and of course, the normal technology stuff. I got, last week's show when I had the lovely and hyper-intelligent Dr. Stephanie Murphy on, I really feel I came off as sounding very defeatist or, very all or nothing. And I tried to say that, these are the directions you can go and you can choose which way to go. Maybe you could do a hybrid. But I just want to make sure that that's emphatically clear, that I do think there is a degree of hybridization in security that you can do, and that you can, if anything, implementing stuff like Text Secure or, these other kind of apps or software, PGP and whatever, if anything, you can, at the very least be a pretty good thorn in the side, of the surveillance state. And that's a laudable goal to go for in and of itself. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. But let's get into the rapid fire stories. Windows 9. Now I talked about this last week. Actually, before I get into that, I just want to say, do check out on sovryntech.com at the bottom left of the page. There are affiliate links there, some new ones. One of them's for Cryptsy, which is a great altcoin, and Bitcoin exchange. I really, really like it, as well as ones for Coinbase and some others. So please check those out, and if you can make use of them, please go ahead. Anyway, that done. Let's get Windows 9. I announced last week the ridiculousness that they're already coming out with Windows 9. Not even that, but I think in April of this year, they're coming out with an update to Windows 8.1. Already, Microsoft is updating, the shit out of their shit, and which is crazy. But now, not this April of 2014, but April of 2015 is apparently the official release date for Windows 9. So a little over a year away. If you have yet to buy a new PC, I certainly recommend waiting for Windows 9 to come out, or go ahead and buy a new PC and put Linux on it, put Ubuntu on it or something, because really Microsoft is such a clusterfuck, and I feel that even the average person, especially when gaming is no longer a part of the process, and now that there's some really, in my opinion, some really great Adobe alternatives, Photoshop alternatives out there. It's time to just start walking away from the big companies. I mean, use Apple, if you must, because for creative professionals, it's still the creme de la creme. But I really feel that everybody should just be running away from Microsoft, as fast as they can. So this is not a good. I mean, if I was looking at this from a purely business standpoint, I'd be terrified of what's going on at Microsoft. I'd be like, holy shit, this company's falling apart. And it looks like it is. So anyway, April 2015 for that release date for Windows 9. Also, this is something I'm not exactly totally sure how I feel about it, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna buy in. But if you're listening to this episode on Saturday, on Saturday the 25th, you might be able to still get into the Indiegogo for Liberty.me. If anything, you can just subscribe to Liberty.me when it comes out anyway, because it is a pay-for service. Liberty.me looks, it's being developed by Jeff Tucker and some others, and it looks very, very interesting. It's trying to be, kind of an internet within an internet for Liberty people, it's not just a Facebook for Liberty people. It's definitely seeming to be a whole lot more, a content platform, a whole lot of things. That you can access regularly, and that to some degree is available. Obviously, the content would be kind of available for free, but the connecting and the promoting that it's going to provide is a pay-for service. So I'm still up in the air whether or not I'm going to go with that. It feels to me very much like an idea, that kind of outcrops out of an Apple way of thinking, and I don't necessarily mean that as a negative, but just take that for what it is. So anyway, so that's something to look into. You can get in on the Indiegogo. There's some great packages for the Indiegogo. If you are hearing this, because I think the Indiegogo might end on the 26th, might even end on the 25th. So hopefully this didn't get out too late. But anyway, another interesting thing is that Chrome's having some problems. Now, this, of course, would also include Chrome OS, but the main browser, Google Chrome, recently they found out that there was ads being put in to Google Chrome that were being put in by extensions that you downloaded. And what happened was these companies that schlep these, the ads that usually your ad blocker will block, the ads on web pages or, the pop-ups or whatever, they were actually getting put into the code of the extensions. And so they could work around like AdBlock Plus or AdBlock Edge. And Google found out about it. They're implementing things, to put a stop to it, because companies were literally buying out these extensions for a few $1,000s a pop so that they could get their ads to be forced upon you, which I find pretty annoying. Of course, all my listeners know how I feel about, ads or marketing that doesn't bring any value to both parties. Again, to both parties. So anyway, this was pretty crazy, but I guess by June there's going to be some new permissions, it's pretty much some new hoops for people to have to go through to have a extension in the Chrome Web Store, and supposedly these implementations will put a stop to exactly that problem. But there's another problem too, and then we'll get into our main story. There's another problem because Chrome also, we find out, is allowing, because of its built-in, because they want you to use the whole OK Google thing with Chrome, right? Because actually, in Canary, which is the kind of the developer version of Google Chrome, which if you use Canary, not a lot of people know that exists, but if you use Canary, you get to take a good look at it's dev. It's not even it's beyond beta, okay, or it's below beta, I should say. And so you get a nice preview of things that are coming, that are coming out for Chrome. And on Canary recently, they saw that Google Now is rearing its possibly ugly head. Some people like it, some people don't. Anyway, Google Voice Search has been out in beta for a while for Google Chrome, and that will, that allows you to do the whole, if you're on Google's website, and of course now they're testing it where it's in the actual Omni bar, in the address bar, and you can say, "Okay, Google," and then it will, transcribe whatever you say and do a search for you. Or maybe even open up apps, whatever, or, open up like your Gmail or something. by voice command. So anyway, all this is getting, really, really heavily implemented into Chrome. It's a big deal. It's something Google's really pushing for. Again, they wanted to make the Star Trek computer, so you got to be able to talk to this thing, right? And it's got to be able to give you an answer, without you doing anything. So they're doing that, but what happened is that other websites are getting in the game, where they want you, say it's something like Lord of the Rings, where they have, that really interactive website for whatever the new Lord of the Rings movie is. And, now these people are putting rich content that can actually interact with your voice, with your microphone. The problem is that some of these websites, without you even knowing, essentially, are turning on your microphone. And they're listening. So you could effectively, you could go to a website, and if the website asks, essentially asks Chrome for the permission to turn on the microphone, Chrome will just turn on the microphone, and then they can hear whatever, they can hear everything that your microphone receives. Now, I mean, you can cover up your microphone. You can buy a computer that doesn't have a microphone, or there is, I'll put a link in the show notes for it that you can see, because there is a checkbox, a very simple checkbox in the settings on Chrome that can keep all websites. There's a couple options on how to do it, but of course I recommend just turning this whole functionality off. Unless, I'm not sure how this is going to work with Google Now, which is coming, again, to Chrome, okay, and Chrome OS. So, and as far as I know, this also affects Chromium too, so keep a lookout for that. But anyway, you can check out the extension. I recommend taking a look at it, and yeah, work from there. So anyway, I could get into that. I'll talk about that in the Tech Roulette, because we're going to talk about phones and the the effect of those in Tech Roulette. What I want to talk about now, though, is really what's been it's kind of been the topic for the past couple weeks, and I don't want to, it's net neutrality, okay? It's net neutrality, and I don't really want, news is so crazy now due to the internet, due to our hyper-connected world, and I don't mean that as a negative. Again, I don't mean hyper-connected world as a negative. Due to our hyper-connected world, it is very tough to trust any information really that comes out by the second. And so I'm very much feeling, I only do Sovereign Tech once a week, and so I need to wait like a week, okay, before, I really talk about something. So if you feel like Sovereign Tech is not talking about the most important thing of the week, it's really because I'm waiting, the Stallion's waiting for all the info to come out before I bring it to you. So consider it a good thing, because a lot of people emailed, hey, how come you didn't talk about net neutrality last week? And I wanted to let the dust settle, because there's so much blah, blah, blah going on all over the place. Now, what is net neutrality? Net neutrality was essentially the FCC's attempt, okay, the Federal Communications Commission, their attempt to, supposedly, this is how it's being sold, take over the internet and make sure that companies like Verizon and Comcast and whoever else can't create this fabled tiered internet. Now, what is tiered internet? Tiered internet is the idea that you would have to access certain parts of the internet, or to access higher speeds or whatever. Like say you're paying for internet right now, Verizon creates this tiered internet, and you want to go to Facebook because a lot of people go on Facebook. And Verizon makes a deal with Facebook saying, look, okay, for people to be able to access Facebook, they're going to have to pay a premium. They're going to have to pay a higher amount. So if you're already paying $50 for internet access, then to be able to access Facebook and maybe some other high-end websites, you're going to have to pay another $10. And supposedly, in Verizon's case, they say it's for them to offset, the price of the bandwidth of things like Netflix and whatever. And that's really the kicker, is like this streaming video that apparently is such a problem, for these companies to handle the bandwidth for, which it's not. It's really not a problem. So, yes, the internet, needs to be faster. Okay, like one of the things with Bitcoin is I think that Satoshi Nakamoto, I think he expected in 2007, 2009, whatever that early time frame was. I think he expected by 2013 or 2014 that we're in now, I think he expected the internet to be a lot faster in the United States like it is in the rest of the world. The best speeds you get in the United States on average are, gigabit internet, 1 gigabit per second, whatever. As to where in Japan, they have 2 gigabit per second. I mean, and there's really, other than specialized lines, there's no consumer service that's offering those kinds of speeds. So I think he expected that, and that's why he wasn't so concerned about the scalability of the blockchain size, which is a real problem, because the blockchain's now gigabytes upon gigabytes in size. And so I think he expected it, and it takes days to download if you use the Bitcoin client, the vanilla client. And so I think he was expecting things to get a lot faster. Now there's kind of this argument, I think it's a false argument, and what its end game is, I'm not entirely sure. But now there's this false argument that we need net neutrality to make sure that these companies don't create this tiered internet in the United States to where they can provide these higher speeds, or to where, supposedly Verizon wants to create the tiered internet so that they can lay out more lines and all this stuff. And net neutrality is the FCC saying, no, you can't do that. Now, you have both sides. You got most of the people, by the way net neutrality is being sold, they're mad that it didn't pass through Congress, that net neutrality didn't become a law, saying that nope, the internet needs to be free and open to everybody, because that's supposedly what net neutrality was all about. But then you have the other side who are saying, this is just giving the government more regulation of the internet. And that's true. That's literally what it's doing, is it's giving the FCC more regulation of the internet. But there's a good friend of mine who she explained this very, very well, what net neutrality is all about, and I'm going to actually quote her here. Net neutrality laws are attempts to solve the symptoms of a much larger problem. If we actually had competition between ISPs, internet service providers, no one would give a fuck if Comcast throttled Netflix, because you'd have many other options to choose from. The federal government controls spectrum allocation, and local governments control cable placement. This overhead prevents small ISPs from building up their own infrastructure, and instead they must depend on the corporate entities which can afford to pay lobbyists for compliance. And that's right on. That's right on. Spectrum allocation, meaning like what the FCC controls as far as, waves and all this business, like Wi-Fi signals, which that's a problem I'm going to talk about in a second. But it's the states. The states are the ones that aren't letting this competition happen. Everybody, I think, recognizes that competition needs to be there. One of the reasons people are saying to have net neutrality is so that Verizon doesn't have Verizon doesn't have like a monopoly in certain areas, or Comcast doesn't have a monopoly in certain areas of providing internet, which they do right now. It's true. But it's the states that control all this. You go to California, you've got like Spider Oak, I think, or Sonic.net. You've got companies that provide tremendous service, tremendous speeds and tremendous ISP service. But that's because the laws there, the state laws or the county laws or city laws, are allowing for, a multitude of choices. Now, it makes sense in California, especially in Silicon Valley, in the San Francisco area, okay, because, there's a lot of people that need to be provided to, and one company probably just can't do it. So it creates this automatic competition, and people there are getting, tremendous internet. It's interesting, Vermont actually has gigabit internet. It's mind-blowing that they have that there. And what's so funny is I don't live far from where this incredible gigabit internet and 4G phone service is provided by a local Vermont company. But because I live in New Hampshire, the lines, I'm so close, the lines have to be running through where I live. So it's available. But because the states are saying, oh, no, you can't provide here, you can't provide. Again, the states, not the federal government, the states are saying, no, you can't provide here. I can't get that great internet. And I'm dealing with actually incredibly slow internet from Comcast. Okay? Do you see how that works? The argument's ridiculous. They're just, it's like they're almost throwing up smoke screen. The problem's, corporatism and government. They're both bad guys, and net neutrality isn't going to solve this issue. Okay, because even just picture this. Okay, now net neutrality, like at face value sounds kind of good, right? But who's providing these Wi-Fi signals, of internet that everybody wants open access to and good speeds for? No, it's not Comcast. It's not Verizon. It's you. You're providing it. I've got my own personal router that shoots out that Wi-Fi signal. That's ours. That's the people's. It's not theirs. How do they think that they can regulate that? Yes, okay, they're providing, the lines, they're providing the actual internet. Okay, but they can't, it's my choice. If I want to unplug the Wi-Fi, I unplug it. My concern is that net neutrality has so much nonsense inside of it that they could probably tell me what to do with my router. Now, it's some degree of speculation there, no doubt about it. Okay, but that's the thing, is that, no, we don't want these big corporations, but we don't want government involvement either, but government at the state level, not even don't stop blaming Obama. It's not at the federal level. At the state level, they could solve this. At the county level, they could probably solve this. At the town level, they could probably solve this. Government is the entire problem. Okay? That's all it would take is some county to say, okay, we'll call the company, Great Internet for You. That's the name of the company, Great Internet for You. And they could say, okay, Great Internet for You. I want you to, we're gonna, hell, they could even subsidize it, whatever, and say, come on in. We've got people that want better internet, and we're tired of this, of this monopoly here because the internet we have is shit. We can't even get our government work done. So you come on in, you lay down the lines and set up your satellites and whatever, and we'll subsidize you, or we won't charge you or something. Somehow we'll make it a really sweet deal. But they don't do that, and they could. Okay, so everybody's eyes are in the wrong places. Now, to look at Verizon, yeah, Verizon certainly would, obviously, if Great Internet for You, that company, that imaginary company, came in and did that, Verizon would obviously be like, oh, you can't do this. And then Verizon would start lobbying, and Verizon would start paying people off saying, don't let Great Internet for You come in here and do this. So, yeah, but this is the point. They're both bad guys. Okay? In this whole net neutrality argument, they're both bad guys. So, you can't just blame one. You got to blame them all. Okay? And you can't just blame the federal government either. You can't expect the federal government to save you. The state government can save you. They choose not to. The county government could quote unquote save you, save your internet. They choose not to. And they're choosing. No one's maybe somebody's putting a gun to their head, but I don't think it's being done that way. I think just, the money's flowing. So it's important to, get people in that mindset, okay, when they start talking about net neutrality, because this hasn't gone away. Net neutrality is going to keep coming. All right, but get people to understand we're looking at the wrong problem. This is Brian Sovryn, and I'll be back with more Sovryn Tech.
Stone Age wasn't enough for you?
Then we heard it. The sound of something terrible being born.
This is madness.
Station 3 to Commander Ivanova.
Centauri have launched a full-scale assault.
Time is coming on! It's our turn now!
2 million tons of spinning metal, all alone in the night. A world where empires rise and fall, where dreams are born and die, where war and hatred are challenged by love and faith. In the third age of mankind, an age plagued by an evil empire that seeks to destroy humanity. It is our last, best hope for peace, for victory, for freedom. It is Babylon 5.
Babylon 5 is available for download on your favorite torrent site. See it now to experience the greatest show in television history. Babylon 5.
Tech Roulette. You want to play?
It is time for Tech Roulette, where I cover the stories that get sent into me through the various channels that are available. Sovereigntech@riseup.net, of course, is the email address. You can get in touch with me through Twitter. If you happen to be a Facebook friend of mine or whatever, you can do it that way too, or Google+. As well as, I suppose you could use Ask.fm. I do have an Ask.fm account. Again, it's not really getting used, so I might just end up getting getting rid of that. Or, of course, you can get in touch with me through IRC at the Sovryn Balnea, which, I really, really hope, that more people start getting interested in IRC. It is probably my preferred communication medium, has been for a long time. I kind of stepped away from it for a little while, for a few years, I guess. But I'm just finding more and more that it's the best. And really, with a lot of the developments going on, right now in the Liberty world and the tech world, like with Bitcoin or Ethereum, things like that, there's IRC still being used very heavily by like developers and people that are just interested in this sort of thing. So if you go to Freenode, all the instructions are in the show notes, to get in touch with me. You can use CryptoKit as well, with so that you can use PGP. So plenty of ways to get in touch with me. But yeah, on Freenode, there is the Sovryn Balnea. That's the name of the channel, and you can check that out. So anyway, I'm not in there all the time. I've been exceptionally busy, the past while, even though I try not to use the word busy anymore, because it makes it sound like I'm doing something important and you're not, which just isn't true. I plan on being there more often and, just start up a conversation, or I don't have to be there, have a bunch of people in there and just start, chatting away, having a good time. Anyway, so this week I want to talk about, this seems to be, I don't want to call it a fad because I don't think it's something that's going to, fade away. I think the crypto economy is a natural response to these, to our post-prison world, to the things that Edward Snowden has released. And again, I'm really going to try and wrap this up with all, all this security stuff, because I want to start talking about other things. I would have named it like Sovereign Crypto or Crypto Tech if this is what I wanted to spend all of my time talking about, and it's not. But if it's what you want to hear, you can email me and let me know that this is what you're interested in, and maybe if there's enough demand, I can expand the show, other parts of the show to where this is more of a focus. But anyway, let's talk about this stuff. So I mentioned a couple of these things last week during Rapid Fire Stories, and they're getting quite a bit of press, which is good because, again, like I said, this crypto economy is a natural response, it's a market response to what's happening. And two of the phones coming out are Black Phone and the Quasar 4. Black Phone's being done by Silent Circle, which is pretty famous for, shutting down their email services, and also having their president is Phil Zimmerman, who is the creator of PGP. That's certainly a guy that's interested in security. Okay. And the Quasar 4, I think I talked about for a whole segment at one point on this show in the past. Maybe some time ago, because it was a Kickstarter and it was very, very successful. People are obviously very interested in these things existing. So the Quasar 4, they kind of call a ninja phone or a cipher phone. And, both of these, the Black Phone and the Quasar 4, as far as, is this going to be a powerful enough thing? Yes, these devices are have quad cores in them, tons of memory. They've got all the right stuff. Okay. Now, maybe it's worth mentioning that, like I did last week, that there is an Ubuntu phones will be coming out. I don't know how necessarily secure those are going to be. They definitely don't have privacy in mind. That's kind of the difference, is the Quasar 4 and the Black Phone have privacy controls and privacy systems built into them, as to where Ubuntu, it's pretty secure on its own, right? In fact, GCHQ, which is the British version of the NSA, they did they do their testing of what are the most secure operating systems out there. They do this every once in a while, and they found that Ubuntu was, the most secure. Of course, they didn't test Chrome OS, which I would argue is probably the most secure against the average person. Now, whether it's secure against the NSA and GCHQ is another story. But Ubuntu was very, very secure according to GCHQ, including more secure than Android. So maybe that's, so it's worth mentioning. It's worth bringing up that these Ubuntu phones will be coming out, and maybe they are more secure. Now, the Black Phone, as far as I know, all of its security doesn't come from, because there's a major, I think, difference between, in my understanding, between the Quasar 4 and the Black Phone. Okay. The Quasar 4 has a lot of hardware implementations of security, a lot of client-side, device-side stuff, that requires like device IDs, like chip IDs and all this, for the Quasar 4 to work. And then it uses a lot of proprietary software, not necessarily open source, but a lot of proprietary software. As to where, and of course their own little version of, it's called Qua OS, I think. It's their own little version of Android. And that's the route more, though, that Black Phone's going, is where Black Phone is using, I think they call it Priva OS, which, it's Android, just they've tinkered with it and made it into a more secure system. And Black Phone, Quasar, the company that's making the Quasar 4, that's, what is it called? QS Alpha, QSA, I guess. It would, that's an interesting play on words, but anyway. So, QS Alpha, they are, they're not a proven company. They're new. Okay. As to where Silent Circle definitely is a very proven company, and a company who, as far as integrity, they clearly have integrity. They have a reputation within which to, maybe sell a security-minded phone, a phone with the very, and this is literally, what they have in mind. I'll read a little bit here from the Black Phone website. The vision, giving power back to the user. Black Phone is the world's first smartphone which prioritizes the user's privacy and control without any hooks to carriers or vendors. So it's going to be unlocked. It comes pre-installed with all the tools that you need to move throughout the world, conduct business, and stay in touch while shielding you from prying eyes. It's the trustworthy precaution any connected worker should take, whether you're talking to your family or exchanging notes on your latest merger and acquisition. Okay, now, yes, corporations need privacy too. Okay, as we know they exist today. That's not to say I'm a fan necessarily of so many corporations, but clearly they are trying to sell to everybody. They're trying to sell to the enterprise segment, and they're trying to sell to the family. Okay, saying, we all deserve privacy, blah, 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 blah. And both of them are really trying to do that. So, again, the Quasar 4, the problem with the Quasar 4, I think, and I'm not sure if this is true with the Black Phone, and I don't know if this is necessarily a problem, but with the Quasar 4, for all of its security implementations, so that the NSA can't see your communications or whatever, for all those, the person you're contacting also has to have a Quasar 4. And the Quasar 4 is starting at about $600, which is a good price for a phone, but most people don't want to pay that. That's why they do 2-year contracts, at least in the United States. That's why most people do 2-year contracts with their, with their carrier. As far as the price of the Black Phone, I'm not sure what exactly that's at. So, so that's a problem. The Black Phone, maybe that's going to end up being the same story, where the other person has to have a Black Phone. The other person has to have a phone with Priva OS, which again is their own version of Android, installed onto the device. And, if Priva OS is open source, maybe it can get ported onto other, maybe it can be a ROM like CyanogenMod. And it can be imported onto, you could put it on a Galaxy Nexus or a Nexus 5 or whatever, with an unlocked bootloader, and then you could still use it. The Quasar 4, that's just not going to be possible because, again, a lot of it is client side. It's actually built into the hardware itself. So, a lot of this stuff is speculation, but as far as what I can tell, what I read into with these devices is that they should work very well for what they're saying they're going to do. They should be pretty secure. I imagine Silent Circle. Silent Circle was clearly a problem for the NSA. That's why, part of Silent Circle's business model was, shut themselves down because the NSA was closing in on them. And kudos to them for that. So both of these companies, it should work very, very well. Again, now, is every activist or is anybody who needs this kind of privacy going to be able to hash out the money to buy these things? Most likely not. But that's not really the problem. The problem is that even if, let's say Black Phone in particular, okay, now again, the Quasar 4, I think we can pretty much stop the discussion about the Quasar 4 right now, though a lot of what I'm about to say would equally apply to that. Okay, because with the Quasar 4, again, you both have to have the same devices and everything's, being done hardware side. So that creates a whole complex structure there. But so we're going to stop talking about that, but let's talk about the Black Phone, which will probably, I'm going to hope it has a lower price point than the Quasar does. And the problem we're going to run into, though, is that say you're just being very generous, and for everybody around you bought you bought them all Black Phones. You bought your whole family Black Phones. Okay, particularly let's say your family, and by their own website's admission, they were they're marketing this towards a family. When you do that, obviously your son or daughter, in the desire to connect with other people their age or just other people in general, are going to put Facebook Messenger on there. I don't think I'm crazy for saying that's what's going to be done. And in fact, if they can't, say you blocked it, okay, no, say a parent said, well, no, all right, you can't put Facebook Messenger on this thing. This is a phone designed for privacy or whatever. I'm fairly certain your kids would say, well, then what's the point to having a phone if I can't put that on there? And really, the instant that Facebook Messenger, and this is just one app of a million that would cause this problem, I'm just using it because it's a popular example. If you put Facebook Messenger on there, I don't care what security features you put in. It's game over. Okay, all those privacy features, gone, dead, buried. Doesn't matter. Because Facebook Messenger, by its permissions alone, and you can't, as far as I know, and I could be wrong about this, and you can email me, sovereigntech@riseup.net. As far as I know, you can't tell a piece of software, okay, no, I don't accept this permission, and I don't accept this permission, now go ahead and install. Okay, because the permissions that are a problem is that Facebook Messenger asks your phone, I need to be able to access your camera and microphone, because Facebook Messenger has, VoIP, it has voice over IP, it has a video service like Skype built into it. Okay, so it makes sense that it wants to use that. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying it makes sense that Facebook Messenger asks for that. The problem is once it asks for that, it can do it whenever it wants to. There's no allotted time. Facebook doesn't care about your privacy. It's anti-privacy in and of itself. Okay. And so the instant you put that on there, that's it. Those privacy features gone, because now your microphone and your camera can be turned on at any given time by Facebook Messenger. And I don't think you're going to sell to people, if they can't use Facebook Messenger, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to gel. Now, yes, you can use alternatives. You can use Chat Secure, which gives you access to Facebook Messenger, or to, the Facebook app, Chat Secure doesn't give you the Facebook app itself. And you could access Facebook through the web browser. That way it doesn't have all those permissions. You could do things like that. I don't think people are going to fly with that. Because, all right, say it's not Facebook Messenger. Say you can convince people to not use Facebook anymore. They're going to use something else. Somehow, or maybe Snapchat will add it to its permissions that it needs voice, because Snapchat's going to do a Vine type thing. Okay? So that's my point, is that the average person isn't going, may think that they're somehow secure in buying one of these phones, one of these security-based phones. But, again, that's fine. You can have all the security in the world, but if a person doesn't have the mindset in the first place of why they're using this phone, why it's important that these phones exist, they're pointless. There's no reason for them. Okay, so the mentality is what people need to be choosing. Is that, do I want my privacy or do I want my hyperconnectivity? Okay. Now, you can do something in between, yes. Okay. I made the mistake last week, I think, of sounding very kind of fatalist. Okay. You can do something in between, and these are a fine start. All right. And maybe it's good to buy one of these phones just so that you can have the option if you happen to need it. But I mean, these are not like the black phone in and of itself is being sold as an NSA, essentially, an NSA stopper, an NSA killer, or surveillance state killer. And no, unless people are really, really aware of why they want that, they're not going to take the necessary actions to implement that. Now, this is nothing to speak of the fact that I'm sure these phones are still being based on ARM processors, which the firmware for ARM processors is not secure at all. Okay. And there's people out there who, in fact, I think I heard one on Freedom Fiends, who say that, or, who was talking to Michael W. Dean, love that podcast, who say that it doesn't, the mobile platform, it will never be secure because cell signals have to have open access, open communication with your handset. They have to have open communication with your device. And this is similar to why, I did a Dark Android special a little while back, and I said, you're going to buy a tablet with Wi-Fi only. That's what you're going to grab. Do not buy the one with LTE. Do not buy, because that antenna is the problem. Okay. That antenna is the whole, that's the very baseline of security, and it's totally insecure. It's not secure at all. Okay. So, I think these can work. I mean, like you take a program like Text Secure for Android. Okay. Recommended by everybody. Jacob Applebaum, me, Steve Gibson. I mean, you name the name. They recommend and they say that works. Because it gets encrypted on the client, gets sent off, it's encrypted as it goes over the air. That really does work when it works. Okay. So you can do this sort of thing. But again, the level of security, the level at which, what the NSA can do to defeat that, it's just my opinion on it. I mean, people have to change their mindset of how they use these things. Okay. And that means that Facebook and Snapchat and a whole bunch of this other stuff doesn't get used anymore. I'm not saying this is what you have to do. I'm not saying, the Golden Stallion is not telling you, okay, look, we got to stop all this now. This is crazy. They're going to surveil us. They're going to blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying anything of the sort. Okay. I'm just saying that this is what's being sold to you, and this is the mindset for what's being sold to you to work. You have to be in. Okay, because it's not just the technological implementation is not enough anymore. It was in the 90s, maybe, but it's not enough anymore. And so I just want to make sure everybody has that understanding. Okay, that these phones are very, very exciting. I think they will work very, very well. But you can't just rely on the phone. You've got to have a change of mind, of attitude itself to really make it work. I'll be back with more. This is Sovryn.
Time now for 90 Seconds on Sex with Dr. Paul.
When I speak at colleges, I'm often asked about the impact of marijuana on sex. Now, before I can even address that, it's important to understand that there are two different strains of marijuana which result in very different experiences. I mean, the plants even look different. Now, one strain is called sativa, which causes a rush of energy and makes thoughts go faster. It feels more psychedelic and can cause motor mouth and hallucinations. You wouldn't want to use sativa before bedtime. The other strain of marijuana is called indica. It causes more of a body buzz and can leave a person feeling relaxed, calm, serene, hungry, and sleepy. Now think of Cheech and Chong, and that's indica. It makes sense to assume that these different strains might have different impact on sex. Also, most marijuana on the streets is a hybrid or mixture of the two, which complicates things even further. Now, the reason sativa feels more cerebral or psychoactive is because it has a higher percentage of THC. And the reason indica feels more mellow or relaxing is because it has a higher percentage of CBD. These are both known as cannabinoids, which can impact everything from pleasure, memory, and thoughts to concentration, perception of time, and movement. Some very cutting-edge research is currently being done on cannabinoids in both medicine and psychiatry.
For more, visit 90secondsonsex.com.
Software of the Week.
It is time for Software of the Week, where I talk about pieces of software that I find useful. Sometimes it's even a full-on operating system. Other times it's something that I consider to be maybe terrible or maybe just pointless. And this week's Software of the Week falls under the pointless. This is a new release this week, okay? So, this is really hot off the press, even though that phrase probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense anymore. And it's Beats music. Beats as in, Beats, like the like the Dr. Dre headphones. And this is it's a streaming, music service. It's just like your Spotify or, maybe your iTunes Radio, or Google Play Music All Access, things of that nature. It is a pay for service. It's $10 a month. There is a free trial that you can try out. And I checked it out, and okay, like it has the same, 20 million some odd songs that really every other service offers you. Okay. And whether or not, that generally includes all your latest pop hits, which, it's fine and dandy. And you really, I guess music is such a matter of taste, to each person. It's a really subjective value. Maybe this has all the music that you want. It has a pretty cool playlist system and like music selection system. It kind of works like Pandora, where by song, it tells, because with Pandora, if you like a song, you hit thumbs up and then Pandora knows, okay, you like this kind of music or you like this kind of song or tempo or whatever, and so we'll play more of this style. This does that, but it doesn't take as much time, because for Pandora to get really, really good, it has to play quite a few songs to really get to know you. Beats music asks you more questions, and it's a different setup, and so that's really clever, that it has that. But and the app itself looks fine, and the website, because you can access it from the web too. All of it looks okay, but I didn't think, I was looking at it and I'm like, yeah, there's nothing really special here. And in fact, most importantly, it's one of the more expensive services of the bunch. Of course, it's Beats, and so they feel they have a name behind it because Beats are such a, they're kind of the Bitcoin standard of headphones in the world and of speakers or whatever. Like the Pill, right? That's a really popular Bluetooth speaker. But like you take Google Play Music All Access, okay, and that lets you add 20,000 of your own songs onto the service, and then you have access to the millions of songs, whatever that are on there. Okay, so if you're missing something out of that 20 million, which is pretty possible considering the amount of music that gets made, and especially if you're a real music lover, generally you enjoy some indie stuff or maybe some classics that just kind of fell through the cracks. Google Play Music All Access actually allows you to implement those, into the 20 million, available songs, that's available to every other service. And Beats doesn't allow for that. Maybe they'll allow for that in the future. Maybe they'll allow for more than 20,000 songs. They'll allow for 100,000. And then maybe that'll become, the premier music service. But as it stands, there's just nothing new here. There's nothing really being offered here other than a name. And maybe if the name's important to you, then so it is, and you roll with it. Again, it all looks good. It all works very well. It's just there's nothing really different here. And to cost more than any of the other services, I think it's crazy. So they're totally running off of their name, and I don't think that's enough. And like this, the kind of the music genome thing that it's kind of copying from Pandora to where it figures out what you like to listen to. I think that's a gimmick, because the best music, out there that you haven't heard, I guarantee these services aren't going to find for you. I mean, you're going to have to like get it recommended by somebody, or it'll be on an Amazon list or something. I don't think that the really like that great music that you're just dying to find, I don't think that's really out there and available in this 20 million song package that's always out there. Now, of course, all the reason they can only offer 20 million is all this, intellectual property nonsense, right? Okay, so that's really the problem. I'm not necessarily attacking the service because it doesn't have all that available, but it didn't do anything to alleviate the IP problem. So I think it's a pass. I don't really care for Beats Music. Stick with Google Play All Access. It's fantastic. I'll be back for more. This is Sovryn.
From Big Finish Productions, Blake 7, The Classic Audio Adventures.
I'm taking Liberator in on manual. We'll be in teleport range in 2 minutes.
What the hell was that?
Information. Liberator has been attacked.
You don't say.
Put up the force wall.
Confirmed.
Message to all ground commanders. Initiate the final phase. Let's crush these rebels once and for all.
My name is Avon. Kerr Avon.
Kerr Avon.
Our hostage arrives, but you may be unnecessary.
As a hostage, it's nice to be superfluous.
You can go to Blake7.com to find more of the new adventures of one of science fiction's greatest masterpieces, Blake 7, at Blake7.com. It is time for listener emails, where I cover, questions that get sent to me, and they can be anything. I mean, last week I did a question. Someone asked me, could red and blacks and yellow and blacks, as in could anarcho-socialists, anarcho-syndicalists, whatever you want to call it, red and black covers a pretty big envelope, or covers a pretty big tent. And the yellow and blacks, of course, being the anarcho-capitalists, can they get along? Of course they can. But it was a great question, and I had the lovely and hyper-intelligent Dr. Stephanie Murphy here to talk about it with me, which was really, really nice. Ask me anything you want. And again, you can email me, sovereigntech@riseup.net. There is also the ask.fm. If you look at the bottom left of sovereigntech.com, you'll see the link there to find it. It's just ask.fm/sovereigntech if you want to put it into the address bar. And so again, it's something that's open. I'm open to any kind of questions. You can ask me anything, and I get asked all kinds of things. And it's really, really great to have a rapport and to converse with the audience. I really enjoy it. In fact, I want to say this. There are a couple of people, one guy in particular I can think of who I've actually had on the show a couple times, that I really, to make these friendships, okay, even though I don't right the second, I don't have the time to really, develop these friendships as much as I'd care to. I talked about that last week too. But to make these friendships has made doing the show totally worth it, to make these connections with people, with just tremendous people. Because it's tough. You can feel, and me in particular, I'm kind of an odd guy, and to make connections with people who really know what you're talking about, and who have the same passions and the same interests, as you do, because hey, they're listening to your show, whether it's certain segments of it or the whole thing, doesn't matter. I do segments to break up the show, that way I'm not forcing stuff to listen to boring things, but if there's a certain segment they want to hear, or not boring, but less interesting things, no one would say it's boring. That's why I break it up, so that you have that option. And I think that's something a lot of podcasts are really going to be jumping on, and actually I've noticed a couple podcasts very, very recently starting to implement or re-implement the idea of segments. Set segments. So, but to meet to meet you people, has made this totally worth it to do Sovereign Tech. because, I mean, especially, a lot of these subjects, boy, especially when I geek out, I mean, come on, you just heard before this segment, you just heard a commercial for Blake 7, and growing up, I knew all of one other person that had any fucking idea what Blake 7 was. Okay. Until I started going to conventions. And so to be able to connect with people, because, on Twitter, I send stuff out on, I tweet all the time. And to be on Twitter and just like really complain about some nerd thing or whatever, and to have other people take it seriously and get it, or to know exactly what I'm talking about, is just, it's fabulous. It makes the show worth every second, to do. So to meet these people, to meet new people that I consider friends, is really just an absolute joy. And a lot of people I will be meeting for the first time, face to face. I will be speaking at the Texas Bitcoin Conference. You can go to texasbitcoinconference.com, I believe. And this is in March. And it's just a one-day event in Austin. It's right before South by Southwest, and so I'll probably, I might head over to South by Southwest to check that out as well while I'm there. But I will be speaking at the Texas Bitcoin Conference, and I've already had some people email me and say that they'll be there and they can't wait to meet, and I can't wait to meet you. I really can't. It'll be an absolute joy to connect with everybody. As far as what my talk is about, I'm pretty sure I know what my talk is about, but, maybe I won't reveal it just yet. But the Texas Bitcoin Conference is being incredibly gracious with me, and really with everybody. And this looks like it's just going to be a phenomenal event. And it won't be the first event that I've spoken at as far as, liberty, or Bitcoin matters go, but this definitely seems to be the top one. I will also, so far, because I'm also going to the Toronto Bitcoin conference, which will be the following month. And if you can catch that, that looks like it's going to be just a very top-notch event as well. I dare not say one is better than the other. I mean, because they just both look so goddamn amazing. But I will be either speaking or on a panel at the one in Toronto as well. So that's great. And if I get to meet, listeners of the show, I mean this. A lot of people say this, but I mean it. It'll be an honor to meet you. Also, Liberty Forum in February. If you're coming up for that, I will be at the Liberty Forum. I will be doing a little work during the Free Talk Live times. As my listeners know, I work for Free Talk Live. And so I will be doing a little bit of work then, and that's from 7 to 10, just like it always is when you hear it on the radio. But other than that, I'll be around. So, so if I get to meet you there too, the pleasure will be all mine. I really, it's just that this is the beautiful thing of the Liberty community, and of the, of the crypto community, whatever you want to call it, whatever label you want to fall under, is just to be able to connect with people, and so you don't feel alone. Face it, that's part of the reason people listen to podcasts, or is so they don't feel alone. So that they know that there's a voice out there that's talking about what matters to you. And that's a very powerful thing. I know a lot of people, I'll get into, I've got a listener email or a request to talk about something, and I will talk about it, in a minute. But a lot of people wonder, there's this saying with Free Talk Live, which I was just talking about. Now Free Talk Live runs 7 nights a week. Okay. I'm on Sunday nights. You can hear me on Sunday nights doing Free Talk Live, with the lovely and hyper intelligent Dr. Stephanie Murphy. And, it's on 7 nights a week, and there's people who listen every single night. And I used to, when I was still in New York and I hadn't moved to New Hampshire yet. I downloaded the podcast and I listened to every freaking one. Every chance I had, I would listen to it. And a lot of people wonder, it's like, wow, how do you listen to all of that? Or why do you listen? That's 3 hours a night, and on a podcast, maybe it's a little over 2. How do you, why do you do that? And I think it's because it almost becomes family, because the family you're with might not get anything. They might not understand anything that's important to you. And so I'm so glad, that there's this wealth of Liberty material, or just podcasts in general, because it doesn't have to be, I like geeking out too. I'm not always talking liberty and tech, So it's good that this stuff's out there. Okay. And, most of these podcasts and whatever have some degree of ways to donate to the shows. And, if you're getting pleasure out of them, obviously I recommend you do so. I do so when I can, even though I'm a podcaster. So, and it's good. It's good to have that relationship, with everybody. There's a lot of people who say, well, when you finally move to New Hampshire, you stop listening to Free Talk Live. I still listen to it pretty much every night. But of course, then again, I do work for it. So, but I mean, a lot of reasons that I think people say they stop listening to it is because, they're here now and they have people all around them. Whether you're in Keene or Manchester, wherever, there's people all around them that they can just have dinner with that understand liberty, that understand these important issues. And so, they don't have to listen to Free Talk Live anymore to get that need for connection met. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. And Free Talk Live anticipates it, and I think, maybe people stop listening to Sovryn Tech when they move here too. And that's okay. I want to make this point. This is a fascinating point. There's some podcasts out there, there's some radio shows or whatever that will tell you essentially that, you always got to come back. You always got to come here. If you want to find out, whatever, you've got to come here. Okay. The amazing thing is one of the very, very few people. Now, Free Talk Live will tell you that you don't, there comes a point where you don't, the blinders come off and you don't need Free Talk Live anymore, right? Shockingly, one of the first times I ever heard somebody say something like that, to where, look, you don't have to listen to me all the time, or there's going to be a time where you don't need me anymore, was Alex Jones. I couldn't believe it. He was speaking at a college or at some kind of conference, whatever. And he says, there comes a time where, you don't need me. And that's amazing, because this is a guy who literally, his living is based off of you listening to his show, buying products that he promotes, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I give him a lot of credit for that. I disagree with him on 10 billion things, but I give him a lot of credit for saying that. And you don't have to listen to Sovryn Tech every week. Okay. I'm not presenting you, or at least it's not my intention to present you with any kind of, grand truths here. Okay. It's a tech show where I get to geek out and maybe talk about history and a little bit of sex here and there. Okay. And so if, I think sometimes like people walk up to you and they say, oh yeah, I haven't listened in a while or whatever. That's okay. It really, if someone gets offended by that, I would worry about them. If they were like, I can't believe you're not listening to me. No, it's perfectly fine if you don't listen to every show. I mean, this is a 2-hour commitment every single week, sometimes more. So of course I'm very honored that you do, but you don't have to. Okay. And, there comes a time where, you get an understanding. I mean, technology only goes so far, and science only goes so far. You get an understanding well enough, and, you don't need the show. Maybe you find it entertaining and you keep listening, and that's great. Okay. But you don't need it. I worry about people, okay, I worry about podcasters and radio personalities that say, you need me. And that you're never, essentially saying things like you're never, you're never fully awake or healed or something. Okay. I'm very skeptical of people who talk that way. All right. Or keep donating. It feels, I don't know. It feels like a scheme to me. When people do that, like I said, Free Talk Live readily will admit to you, they'll say we are the elementary school of liberty. Okay. Well, you graduate elementary school, not supporting the school system. I'm not doing that. Okay. I'm just using it as an analogy. And so there's a time where you stop, unless you just find that sort of thing entertaining, or, I still listen to it because it gives you an interesting pulse on how, a lot of other liberty-minded people feel, from people that call in and whatever. So I find that fascinating. So, that's good. But, for a lot of people to, I mean, again, maybe just new information gets presented all the time that you find very interesting, and so you keep listening. You take something like School Sucks or Complete Liberty, and I mean, there's just always new stuff coming out that's really, really fascinating and can really help you grow, personally. And I think that's fantastic. So I'm not saying you should get over things at some point or whatever if it's a very, very serious show. But I'm just saying, I kind of worry where there's some people who would say, I feel like there are some podcasts that would essentially say, you have to keep listening, and I see that as problematic. So please, when you do meet me at these events, when we start talking, I'm not going to expect you. It's like, okay, so, while we're connecting, while you and I are talking at these conferences, say, in the hallways or something, which is where the real magic happens. I'm not going to come up to you and say, hey, well, did you listen to episode 51? Yeah. What did you think about that? This isn't, I'm not going to do that. I'm just glad to meet you. Okay. And, and if you can geek out with me, great, let's do it. Okay. You know what I mean? That's fantastic. I like having listeners on my show and letting them have their say. I haven't had a guest on in a little while, and there's a couple people I've had lined up for, over a month now, I think, and I just haven't had the chance to get them on. But I mean, if you're really interested in being on Sovryn Tech, hey, let's do it. I love talking to listeners and and to friends. I think it's fantastic. Everybody has a voice. Everybody has their own opinions, their own thoughts, their own experiences on things, and I'm always intrigued to hear that. Now, I mean, if someone just wants to spout out stuff that's been already talked about forever, then yeah, okay, no, I'm not that interested in that sort of thing. I think I've already talked about that, about my problem where you just have these people that just keep spewing the same 50-year-old, 100-year-old, however old knowledge that's been so done and so out there. Who cares? But your own personal experiences and and your own growth and all that stuff, I find those topics to be terribly fascinating, and I think everybody should really speak up about that sort of thing. And hey, Sovryn Tech can inspire you to do your own podcast. I did a podcasting special. Speaking of other specials I've done, I did a podcast special a month, maybe 2 months back. That talked about, what it takes for me to do a podcast. And it's not that terribly hard, but I did admit that you've got to, it's all on you. Okay. Like the technology of doing it's very, very simple. The whole technical side's very basic, and you don't even have to be that great of a speaker. I mean, I say so many ums and uhs, who cares? But I think you do have to keep people kind of engaged, and so you do have to have some interesting things to talk about. And that's only really kind of the hardest part of the whole trick. But I think everybody's got an incredible story. I always love to hear it, and it's great if someone can be on Sovryn Tech to do that, and people keep growing. Okay, so you don't need the same podcast over and over again. Anyway, I was going to talk about Cicada 3301. I'll have to save it for another time, because I just ended up talking for the past 10 minutes or however long it was. Hope I didn't bore you. Anyway, we'll be back with more. This is Sovryn Tech.
The Electronic Frontier Foundation, or EFF, fights to protect your rights in the digital world. When a patent troll threatened podcasters, they fought back. EFF has also defended your right to encryption and has sued the NSA to end the government's mass, suspicionless surveillance. There are different ways you can help EFF, from donations, to signing petitions, to writing your representatives, to just spreading the word. Find out more at EFF.org. That's EFF.org.
Brian! Stop playing those video games!
Just a minute, Mom.
Game Talk.
It is time for Game Talk, where we talk video games. And you know, I love video games. Huge fan. Recently, you know, I'll lay this out. Recently, I've been playing a lot of Crusader Kings 2. Very enjoyable game. Incredibly enjoyable. In fact, I had to go, my mission and one of them, or I mean, you kind of choose your missions, but essentially one of my goals that I had to achieve was I was a Khazar out of Kazakhstan, or what is now Kazakhstan, and because this game takes place, you know, in the 11th or whatever century you kind of choose, but around that time frame, 11th century. And I had to go build a third temple, like that third temple, you know, for Jews, and which I found to be kind of fascinating. You know, of course I'm ethnically Jewish, and so that was you know, it was kind of a just an odd thing. It's like, oh well, I get to go finish what Ezekiel started, but anyway, what I want to talk about this week, I have kind of a topic, not a whole lot of links in this show this week, because by and large it's topics, because I'm trying to wrap a lot of things up so that I can move on to, you know, some other type of stories. But this week I want to talk about something I actually find kind of annoying with Steam. Okay, and Steam is really, you know, Valve and Steam, they're kind of the buzzwords going around right now, because you know, they have Steam OS is out there, which is a Linux distribution that allows you, you know, that's designed for video games, which is very, very exciting. I haven't installed it yet because apparently it takes a 1 terabyte hard drive, and I don't have a machine with a terabyte hard drive free to be able to install it. Okay, maybe I misconstrued that, but I haven't really had the chance anyways. So I'd rather be playing games more so than messing with that right now. Maybe at some point I'll pick up an actual Steam machine. I'd be interested if they came out with a Steam laptop. That'd be pretty cool. I mean, it would be like, it'd be antithetical to what they're trying to do with Steam OS, because with Steam boxes and Steam OS and the Steam controller, which with the Steam controller, apparently they got rid of the touchscreen on that now. But anyway, with all that, you know, they're trying to take over the living room. So a laptop isn't going to, you know, necessarily solve that problem or, you know, invade that space in your home. So I don't expect a Steam laptop anytime soon, but I'd be intrigued if they ever came out with one. Maybe if Razer did it, you know, that'd be pretty awesome. Anyway, so something, I love Steam, okay, and even with what I'm about to say, I still love Steam because, you know, I mean, this is what they do. They test stuff out. One thing I'm really not liking is the early access. And what this is that before a game is finished, and sometimes even more so, I don't think it's safe to even call some of these early access games betas, you know, as in they're in beta and still testing. These are like alpha releases almost, I feel like, depending on the game you play. And I really don't like this, you know, because what's happening is with these early access games, okay, usually what's happening is you have Steam Greenlight, okay, which is a system that apparently they're getting rid of. We found out that they're going to kind of put an end to it, which I totally understand why. Because what Greenlight is that you would, you know, you as a game developer, a company, person, whatever, would submit a game to Steam, and then the community, as in the you know, the players, the gamers that use Steam, would vote on whether or not they thought your game looked intriguing enough. Okay, and if it got enough votes, it would get green-lighted, and, you know, they would release it on Steam. Because the problem Steam had was that, you know, almost literally millions of games were being forwarded to them, and they couldn't release them all. So they had to filter the content somehow. And so they came up with Greenlight. It's not working out that well. I concur, and so, you know, they're trying other things. But anyway, a lot of these Greenlight games, because some of them would be so early in the process of production when they would get greenlighted, and they didn't want people to forget about it, you know, that they didn't want to lose steam, but they would release beta versions, or like I said, even what would seem to be almost alpha versions of their games, and they've ended up calling this early access. And so you click on a game, you know, like say one of the big ones right now is Starbound, and you would click on Starbound, and it would, you know, there'd be a blue box around the, whatever, the display of the game, and it would say, this is an early access game, in the store, it would say that. And here's my problem with this, okay? Or here's one of the problems with the early access, is that they're charging you full price. Like, there's a really big game, Planetary Annihilation, I think it's called, that the game runs between like $60 and $80, depending on when you grabbed it. And, and it has tons of flaws. Tons and tons of flaws. They're charging you full price for you to get in on a flawed game. Now, I don't know about you, but I know this is practically a meme on the internet, okay? So a lot of people must have this problem. I'm not the only one. But I mean, I have hundreds of games in my Steam library that I haven't gotten to. Even if I had all the free time in the world, there's no way I could get to all of them, quite frankly. Okay? Which is ironic, right? I mean, it's kind of weird. And these early access games, like, why they think that they're, and I guess there must be because they're still doing it, but why they think that there's a market for people to spend full price on a game that's not finished. And in fact, I bought one during the last holiday sale. I picked up one. See, now, all right, that's another thing too, is like, you can get new games on Steam, like AAA games, high-end games for well under $10, sometimes under $1, or, or around $1 or $2.50, whatever. So I'm like, I mean, there's no reason, like, you see prices that low and I know you say to yourself, why wouldn't I buy it? Right. Why wouldn't you? I mean, it's that cheap. There's no reason not to. And so that's how people end up with these hundreds of games, in their library that they've never played. So, but then, so you buy all those, because, and eventually you're like, yeah, I'll probably play it at some point. And yet you spend like $60 on early access games that are a mess. Like I said, I picked up one very, very cheap. I think it was around $1. Okay. Even though the actual full retail was like $20. And it's still in early access, and it's been a while. It's been some months now. And it's a sword fighting game. I forget the name of it now, but anyway, it's a sword fighting game. And there's so many flaws. There's so many flukes, and it's actually the whole presentation, because it's early access, because it's in beta or alpha. I feel like this game's even more in an alpha stage. That it's boring, and I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, okay, yeah, fine. It cost me nothing, pretty much. Okay. But like, I still feel bad that I even bought it, because it plays like, it plays like crap. And yet a lot of people have it. I look at my friends list and I see a lot of people with this game. So I'm really confused that people are spending money. Like, I don't like the incentive, because at the same time, I don't know what, and I've tried to look into this. Okay. Maybe I got to contact somebody at Steam. I don't know, but I don't know if there's even a contract that says they have to finish the game. You know what I mean? They could just take all the money and never put it out of beta. How long was like Minecraft in beta? Come on. I think this is a huge flaw. Now, I mean, the green light system's got to go. So maybe they're, maybe one is the offspring of another, of the problem of green light. Maybe that's where early access comes from. I'm open. If you want to email me, sovereigntech@riseup.net, and explain to me why you think early access is such a great thing. I've heard some videos that have kind of claimed why it's so good, because it allows, developers to really give gamers what they want. But I don't know. I see that as kind of a false pretense. I mean, that's not how this works. Like, I don't want Shigeru Miyamoto to listen to me. I want him to make the games that he loves, because he comes up with stuff that I would have never thought of. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe what's happening is, and this is an interesting thought, this just came to me, maybe that's the problem, is that, like Hollywood, video game companies are out of ideas, and so they're pushing out these early access games, getting the getting the feedback from people who somehow have the time or desire to play an unfinished game, and and then they're implementing that and creating, and okay, at the end, sure, they're still going to create a great game, right? But you're not going to get that quantum leap of games that Zelda, that The Legend of Zelda was, or that Pikmin was. That the Shigeru Miyamoto made. So I see this as kind of a problem. I really don't like this, and I'm open to your opinions on it. Maybe you've had a really great experience, and please, if you've got a great experience with an early access game, I mean, you can do a write-up. I'll read it. I promise you, I'll read it on Sovryn Tech, because this is really annoying me. I don't like this trend with Steam, and I love Steam. I'm not knocking Steam, okay? And please, I'm glad this option kind of exists, okay? Because, on the consoles, you can't get away with this stuff. All right. So I'm glad this exists. I don't want it to not exist. I think the part that I'm really having a problem with is, like, say with the game, like I mentioned before, Planetary Annihilation, where they want you hashing out $60, $80. What the hell? I mean, for an unfinished product, maybe if they charged you, okay, here, beta access fee, $5. Maybe that would make some more sense. But no, they're getting full price. And like I said, I don't know that these people have any kind of obligation to finish the game. I mean, if a company goes out, they go out. And then you're left with, again, a $60 unfinished game. I haven't played Planetary Annihilation. I'm not going to spend that on anything. So I'm confused. And especially when, I mean, to make it more confusing, again, like I was trying to say, maybe Planetary Annihilation is just this incredible, great game. I don't know. But I think more people would be better served by downloading, the game from Pirate Bay. And if it's really great, go ahead and pick it up. Okay. But it's kind of shocking too, because you take a game like Shadow Warrior, that didn't get this early access thing at all, totally went under the radar, is a phenomenal FPS. It's a great game. And it didn't get any, is that why it's not selling very well? Because it didn't do this early access thing? Is this what people are expecting now? I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts, because to me, it's not making any sense to get into these games, especially the one time I did it. I'm mad that I even spent $1. Anyway, this is Brian Sovryn. I'll be back with more.
Tonight, Knight Rider crashes into your living room.
I don't believe this.
Well, you'd better believe it. A lone crusader for justice drives this crime crasher.
The world's most fantastic car.
And together they can do just about anything.
After all, we're only human.
Don't press your luck.
And now buckle up for action with the fastest show on television, Knight Rider.
See Knight Rider online today. And now back to Sovryn Tech.
Wow. It's a website of the week.
It is time for Website of the Week, where I tell you about a website that I find particularly interesting, sometimes terrible, sometimes funny, sometimes educational, sometimes it has a hard time being, the lines are blurred in our cloud, in our cloud computing world between what's a website and what's software. Anyway, but this week, it's just a straight up website that I find to be, I'm really intrigued by this. And it's, I actually, for Website of the Week, a long while back, I actually did the entire Gawker line of blogs, okay, which is like Lifehacker, Kotaku, Jalopnik, and Jezebel. There's tons of them, okay, that Gawker has. And I did that for Website of the Week because I thought they were, just some of the most intriguing blogs out there, and some of them have really great mindsets. I'm actually doing some investigating into the world of Gawker, how exactly their business model works, and so it might because I've heard some stories that they may not be the most ethical of people. But anyway, this Website of the Week, this comes from, now it's important. This is a Lifehacker offshoot. Okay, it's literally Lifehacker, and it's called After Hours. Okay, and the website is afterhours.lifehacker.com. Now, you can guess when it says after hours what it's about. This is all not safe for work, NSFW, right? And Lifehacker was made by Gina Trapani long before it belonged to Gawker. Okay, so maybe they operate under different rules. I don't know. But anyway, I was really, really glad. I noticed Gawker's doing this with a lot of things, like IO9 is another blog that Gawker has, that they're splitting, like IO9 splitting into multiple blogs. There's still IO9, but then there's Paleo Future, and there's other ones. Gizmodo now has Sploid. So, I don't know what exactly this expansion is that they're going through. None of them of which I've really noticed anything that drastically different. But with After Hours, with Lifehacker After Hours, I noticed a difference. This is really, really intriguing. I'm actually shocked at this. Some of the blog posts, some of the stories being put on Lifehacker After Hours. Clean resin from a glass pipe with isopropyl and salt. You know what that's good for. Are your sex toys safe? Prevent urinary tract infections by peeing after sex. Let's see. Do you schedule time for intimacy? Cooking with cannabis. How to make weed butter. How to make your own all-natural personal lubricant. I mean, these are great stories. Not that I care much for weed at all. That's just me. It's okay if you do. But this is cool. Finally, here's a deadly serious, site that talks about, kind of the fringe, some of the taboo subjects, in United States society, and much of society around the world. So I was really, really pleased when they made this full announcement. They said, yeah, we have this grown up audience. We have these grown ups. Yeah. And so, kudos to them for coming up with it. And they are, since it's only been out like a week, and they seem to have a story every week. And so good, good for them. I think this is fantastic. I think it's something that's needed, and I think it's something that's needed with a trusted name behind it, because Lifehacker, has reputation. A lot of people, look to Lifehacker, and some of the things that get posted on Lifehacker, later on we find out are kind of duds. But, generally it's all safe, and I imagine they're taking the safety of things far more. In fact, the word safety is in a lot of these articles. They're taking the word safety far more seriously with After Hours, with Lifehacker After Hours. So check it out. I think I've got it bookmarked. I love it. afterhours.lifehacker.com. Definitely something whose time had long come. I'll be back with more.
This is Stephanie Murphy, Sovryn Tech Producer. You may know me from this show, but did you know that I have my own podcast? It's called Pork Therapy. Pork Therapy is a bit different from other shows. We cover current events, big ideas, and even relationship issues, all through the lens of how we can get more freedom in our lives. Oh, and you'll love Sex and Science Hour. Join me on my website, porktherapy.com. That's porctherapy.com. Now back to Sovryn Tech. Hacker Stories.
It is time for Hacker Stories, where I cover stories that have to do with the real heroes on planet Earth, and that being hackers. Black hat, white hat, gray hat. Those are all really, they're all heroes. But those terms, those are terms. Yeah, some hackers have kind of internalized them and used them. But they're really terms that were kind of, designed for the mainstream media to use to somehow, judge these actions of, the keyboard cowboys, of hackers. And I really think these terms have to go, because it is painting, it is instantly putting. Like when someone says, well, this black hat hacker, or even just the word hacker. Now, I don't want to get rid of the word hacker because it's been owned, properly so, rightfully so, by people who are doing great work, and who are figuring out how this world works, and how to make the digital world work even better. But just even the mention of the word hacker, is kind of anathema, and it's an instant way to raise the terror level in the minds of so many people around the world. They don't even have to use the word black hat, to say it's a malicious person. And this is a problem, because this villainization of people who are really, trying to, are in many ways seeking a certain justice. I mean, well, they're being vilified by people who have no understanding of what they're doing, of what the hackers are doing. And, you know, it's like, I mean, I say this kind of often, it sounds mean, but, you know, you don't have, yes, okay, everybody has a right to an opinion, but you should want an informed opinion. Well, these people don't have an informed opinion about hackers. They don't. You know, it's so funny that Congress lays out laws, you know, on cyber crimes and quote unquote, and on the internet when they don't have a fucking clue, you know, how any of this stuff works. And when certain people, hackers, you know, I mean, because of this vilification and being chased by the law, I mean, you know, they're being treated like terrorists when they're not. And some of them are getting pushed over the edge. One of the persons getting pushed over the edge is a person named Commander X, who's pretty famous. And if you want to judge him by the people he's worked with, go ahead. He did work with Anonymous, but he's also worked with the Earth Liberation Front. You know, which some people would consider terrorist groups. You know, I mean, he's worked with you know, people that some may find questionable. Fine, you find it questionable. That's okay. But I don't think you're going to find what he wrote to be okay. I mean, you'll find it sad. I believe I met Commander X at a Chaos a few years ago. I mean, he runs he's run a podcast of sorts for years. That's no longer, and he may be no longer of this earth. He wrote a suicide letter, and well, I'm going to read it. When Aaron Swartz took his own life, I often wondered, in the days and hours prior to his death, did he reach out to anyone around him, either directly or indirectly? As the moment of my own death draws ever nearer, I have my answer. He could have, and it would not have mattered, because people do not listen. They hear what they want to hear, and they hate to have their lives interrupted with someone else's sudden needs. In the past several days, as my physical illness and the agony of it combined with the complete isolation and despair which has become my life these past few months grew unbearable, I began to see a merciful suicide as the only hope and the only release. Some will say I suffered mental illness, and at the end as well, and I surely would not deny this. I certainly seem to be in the depths of a hellish illness that tears at both my body and mind. In 3 days, I have reached out to 3 people close to me and straight out told them I intended to end my life. 2 of these friends were too busy to do anything. A third actually asked if he could have the passwords to all the old PLF sites and resources before I ended it. At one point, I offered one friend to postpone for a couple of days my decision if he would drop off at my place some cigarettes and pain relievers. Again, this person was too busy. The cost of a brother's life today is apparently less than a bottle of Tylenol and a pack of smokes. When the lives of others are that cheap, when no one can be bothered to hear the cries of those in anguish who need our friends and family, then the loss of people like myself and Aaron Swartz should be expected. Based on my experience these past few days, I believe Aaron did reach out. Maybe he was not as direct as I was. Maybe he was. I do not know if he blamed those who could have helped but didn't. I actually do blame those I told. In my 5 decades on this planet, I never, ever ignored a plea for help from a stranger, much less a dear friend. To do so is so insanely negligent, heartless, and cruel, there really are no words. All I wanted was to not die alone. Instead, I will die alone, terrified and alone. I now know how Aaron felt near the end. So farewell. I have no kind words to make you all feel better about yourselves. Any loss you feel over my death, you need to look to your own, action or inaction, to weigh what you could have done. For the 3 men whom I told, shame on you. Shame on you for your callousness. You are my brothers, my friends, I trusted you. I reached out to you and I begged you for your help, and you turned your back on me. Know that because of you, I died terrified and alone, and in anguish. You know who you are, And I hope you bear the guilt of what you have done to the end of your days. And that's pretty rough to read that. This is a guy, like I said, you want to question some of the people he worked for, whatever. This is a guy clearly with a lot of passion. It's a passion that seemed to have stuck with him, even in his suicide note. No one knows if he actually died. I mean, that's one of the natures of being a hacker of his caliber, is you don't know where he is. Only a few people know. I think, that's why he reached out to some trusted individuals. Hopefully he's still here. I don't know. And then no one's saying whether or not he is. Maybe this was just, some kind of cover. Things were too hot and he had to get away. I mean, he's worked for Anonymous. This guy's a big deal. He's one of the best hackers the world's ever seen, just like Aaron Swartz was. But maybe he didn't. Maybe he's dead. And like he said, Aaron Swartz is dead. And, we lost other hackers, supposedly due to drug overdose, whatever, over the summer of 2013. These people need our support. They don't need our vilification. They're human beings. And if you agree 100% with everything they've done, they're trying to make a better world. They're acting on their passions and their instincts. And we need to think about this, why these people are killing themselves. Alan Turing, Aaron Swartz, Commander X. I'm sure the government's happy as shit, because that's one less person they have to worry about. Cracking into their databases. And then there's others in jail, maybe I'll talk about them because I'm not hearing enough about them. All I'm hearing is, and look, believe me, I am so happy. I am honored for what Edward Snowden has done. Okay. But that's a lot of all I'm hearing, that's why I did the Sovryn Tech Person of Excellence for 2013. It was Aaron Swartz. I'll give it to Snowden some other time. Okay. He's still around. But he's in the same boat. He's in exile. Julian Assange is essentially in exile. He's hanging out in one room in a fucking, embassy in Britain. And there's others in jail. Barrett Brown, Jeremy Hammond, Anacata from Pirate Bay. We're locking these people up, whether literally in jail, or in death, or in just, in some other country, some subterranean shithole that they have to live in. Well, they chose this life. Well, fuck you. They're doing something. Now, what to do about this? Some of these people have even something as simple as a Facebook page. Here's the one time where I'm going to say Facebook activism might actually do some good. Click like on their fucking pages. We're like Free Barrett Brown or whatever. I don't think Commander X had one. And just start the conversation. And when you start hearing people saying things like, oh, these hackers, I don't know what to do about it. Just tell them, look, they're human beings. Just tell them. No, I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to set you free. Commander X has done a lot, taught a lot of people, created a lot of modern heroes, a lot of people. He is the very impetus for people that revealed an incredible injustice of the raping of a 16-year-old girl in Ohio. He's the impetus for things like that. Now he might be gone. And we've got to pay attention. And we've got to get other people's attention about it. I'll be back with more Sovryn Tech.
What does freedom mean? Tune in to LRN.FM to find out. LRN.FM is the Liberty Radio Network, a collection of live talk radio and podcasts, all coming from a principled pro-liberty perspective. LRN.FM show hosts aren't left, right, or conspiracy kooks. You can tune in 24/7 to LRN.FM via your phone, computer, satellite, and more. Listen free anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
Would you like to play a game? Game of the Week.
It is time for Game of the Week, where we talk about video games, even though I could understand where talking about video games now might sound kind of, anyway, I sorry. The last segment, that needed, a lot of that needed to be said because I'm not hearing anyone else saying it. So I wanted to get that out, but let's shift gears. Game of the week is actually a very, very fun game of the week, and one of the beauties of it is that it can be played on anything, almost anything anyway, any operating system. The game of the week is Super Tux Kart, which is the sequel to Tux Kart. Tux, of course, Tux being the very cute penguin that is the symbol of Linux. And I always love that Linux uses the penguin. I just, it's the cutest thing. And the penguin's a fascinating animal study in its own right. Anyway, Super Tux Kart, it's totally free. You can get it on SourceForge. There's obviously a link in the show notes, sovryntech.com. And it's a knockoff of Mario Kart. But then so many other things are, right? Like Sonic All-Star Racing. I mean, that's a knockoff of Mario Kart. So it's a racing game in the style of Mario Kart. But instead of Donkey Kong and Bowser and Princess Peach and Daisy and whoever else, it actually has all of these, and it's kind of cool, but because it has all of these, symbolic mascots, these characters from various open source distributions. Like there's the mouse from XFCE. There's actually Beastie, the BSD demon, from BSD. Beastie's in it. Even Puffy, the pufferfish from OpenBSD, which I'm a huge fan of, and I recommend people use. If they're really, really paranoid about security. And I don't mean paranoid in a bad way. You name it, and of course Tux is there. Even GNU, the creature and representation of the GNU license. They're all there, and and it's pretty simple. I mean, like there's you can kind of launch bowling balls, just like you would with Mario Kart. You'd shoot turtle shells or whatever. There's like turbo boosts, nitrous containers you can get, and you can go faster and all that stuff. The graphics are, they're nothing to write home about, but that's okay because it's lots of fun. It can be played on almost any hardware. That's kind of the point. Okay, it wasn't looking to pull off Rainbow Road, from Mario Kart. It was looking to have just a nice little fun game that can be played on almost any distribution, almost any operating system, and to work on a lot of hardware. Okay, so it definitely has kind of more of a 90s look, but that's okay. Like I said, I think it works. It even has Super Tux Kart, which has quite a few enhancements in comparison to Tux Kart. Super Tux Kart actually has like a story mode, which is pretty cool, where it you have to do various races. I think GNU gets kidnapped by some creature, and you got to save it, and it's lots of fun, and it's pretty visual. I mean, there's enough going on for it to be somewhat visually appealing. Certainly a lot of fun for kids, and quite frankly, as far as like having kids play it, I think it'd be pretty cool if kids thought, if down the line in the future kids weren't wearing Zelda shirts, even though I love Zelda, instead of wearing Legend of Zelda shirts, they're wearing a shirt with Beastie on it, or Tux. That'd be great. In fact, even, I don't know, I'm not sure, but I imagine like Tux Kart, you could even play on portable apps, which is, if you use Windows, I'm a huge fan of portableapps.com. And that had a portable version of Tux Kart, and I imagine they probably have a portable version of Super Tux Kart too, to be able to play. And so you can, it's a game you can take with you anywhere at that point. And again, it's just a lot of fun, and it's nothing serious, but if you have some time and you just want to have a good time and, have your open source heroes come to life, your open source mascots kind of come to life, here it is. So I mean, you can go to Super Tux Kart. It's Kart with a K, of course. supertuxkart.sourceforge.net. The link is in the show notes at sovereigntech.com for you to grab it too. But just a nice little fun game, and it's just it is kind of cool to see all these mascots actually doing something more than just being on the cover of of a book or a CD. I'll be back with more. This is Sovereign Tech. Do you have a business or product that you are interested in getting advertised to a largely U.S.-based audience on an award-winning podcast and radio show airing on hundreds of radio stations? Let Free Talk Live be a part of your advertising portfolio, because the world of audio never fades. Contact me, Brian Sovryn, and I can get an advertising package that will work within your budget. Email me at brian@freetalklive.com, and that's Brian with an I. Again, brian@freetalklive.com.
What are you doing? I can't believe I caught you again. Jesus doesn't approve of this little habit of yours.
I know, baby, I know it's wrong, but it feels so right.
Well, it ain't.
But I've been doing it since I was 12 years old.
It's nothing but a sinful perversion of nature, if you ask me.
But, baby, I don't ever want to stop looking at tech websites, new gadgets, video games, software, or any of that stuff.
Well, then I'm leaving.
Okay. Bye.
Pick of the week.
It is time for Pick of the Week, where generally I just geek out. I could talk about, anything, really. A topic. Sometimes I do a topic and I get a little heated. I'm going to try not and get heated. Not a huge fan of raising my voice a whole lot. But anyway, this week, like I say, I am going to full on geek out, not necessarily going to talk about a novel or anything in particular. I do want to mention, that I finally saw The Fifth Estate, which is the Julian Assange Hollywood blockbuster, though I guess it wasn't much of a blockbuster at all. And I can see why. I thought it was a terrible film. I don't understand the obsession with Benedict Cumberbatch. It's fine if you do. It's okay. I'm just saying I don't quite get it. And he was in it. He did a fine job, but the movie was really kind of a hit piece against him, and and that's a problem, because like we were talking about during Hacker Stories, is this constant vilification of these people. I mean, look what's happening. These people that are doing so much for the world, and people don't even know, and then they get lied to, like in a movie like The Fifth Estate. So anyway, I can't really recommend it. I enjoyed seeing the government sweat, in it, because they definitely illustrated that. But other than that, I can't recommend the film. But what I want to actually talk about, this is something that's like so many things do, that's kind of annoying me. And it's about collectibles. And I noticed, this year is the 35th, well, the past few months, I should say, have been the 35th anniversary of the original Battlestar Galactica, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. It's an absolute classic. It's absolutely beautiful. Great stuff. Great heroism, great everything. Came out in 1978. And obviously as a reaction to the Star Wars boom. Anyway, so it's 35th anniversary. They've been doing a few things for it. They did a kind of a remastering of the original pilot for the show, which was also back then was released in theaters as well. Saga of Star World, it's called. And boy, that's beautiful. The 1080p mastering of that is stunning. The colors are just mind-blowingly so good, especially for being 35 years old. But they didn't just do that. Now, like if they did that, okay, yeah, I get it. That makes sense. Let's clean this up. It's a big deal, a little bit of a moneymaker. Fine. Yeah, I think that nothing wrong with that. You provided me with the value of seeing Battlestar Galactica in stunning shape, and I'm very happy for that. But they didn't stop there. They went to, they re-released, Battlestar Galactica dolls from 1978, like these 12-inch dolls or whatever. And, they put them in very nice packaging. They're all very, very faithfully reproduced. They look stunning, Now, of course, I wasn't even born in 78. I wasn't born until 1981. So, I have no memories of playing with these things. Maybe that's the key here. But, they're selling them as a collectible. Okay. And again, they're a faithful reproduction of what came out in 1978. Now, this might sound contradictory maybe to some statements I've made in the past. I don't know, but I don't see a contradiction here. I see a problem in that, this isn't 1978. Okay. And they're just toys. They're not actors' performances that you can't recreate with a modern actor. Or an effect shot that you can't recreate, today by that John Dykstra did that was just, mind-blowing back in the day. These are just toys, okay? And there's no reason you couldn't, they look exactly like from 1978. Our toy-making abilities, look at old Star Wars toys. Maybe you remember those. I at least remember those. They were terrible. Those toys were the worst. They, from 77, 78, same time frame. They were so bad, so cheap. They couldn't hold up. You couldn't do anything with them. They paled in comparison. I had a lot of Star Wars figures way back. I had the 97 ones too, but they actually did that matter right. I'll talk about that more in a minute. But like my 70s and early 80s Star Wars toys that I kind of had handed down to me from siblings were junk compared to what G.I. Joe figures could do, as far as a toy goes. And so, today you have sideshow collectibles, or sideshow toys, not sideshow collectibles, even though those are certainly kind of collectible because they make them very limited, whatever. They're beautiful. They're stunning. They look lifelike, and the fact that they didn't make that they didn't do that they didn't hire Gentle Giant or Sideshow or Tefal, whoever, to make these toys, and instead just make an exact literal replica copy of horrendous looking dolls from 1978, I think is a joke. It's a joke. Because no one's actually going to play with these things. They're going to leave them in their box, maybe hang them up on their wall or something, or put them in a vault to do who knows what. And what? I mean, how are they going to hold value? You know what I mean? Now, I understand why the ones from 78 hold value, because there was very few made at the time. They've been around for a really long time. That's the best that they could possibly make things back then. So, you don't expect better, but it's an original, so it makes sense. But then you've got these ones that are replicas of inferior products, inferior toys. And it just doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. No, I brought up the Star Wars figures, okay? In 97, they started re-releasing Star Wars figures. they updated them. They didn't just re-release the ones from the 80s. They gave them, some people question how they made them look because like Lando Calrissian, looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the body, just had this fantastic body going, which, Billy D. Williams never had. So, you could argue about that. But the bottom line is that they brought the best technology available to make the best product available, the best collectible, the best toy, whatever available. And they were toys. Kids definitely played with those, right? Because Star Wars is timeless. And that made sense. And I bought the shit out of them. I had tons. And even like Leia was pretty rare, and like, you had to hash out $40 for a Leia character when normally they only cost like $5. They're very, very popular because they're very, very well done. So that, that makes sense. Okay. You make the best possible product you can. You don't cheat people and make, and just do this remake of an inferior thing. Now, if they made like a really awesome looking Adama figure, again, we're talking 1970s Galactica, the real thing, the real Galactica, not this new crap. Okay. The real thing. If they made a Lorne Green figure like Sideshow usually does, or McFarlane Toys usually does, I'd be all over it. I'd have to have it, but this is pointless. Now you can say this is a matter of taste. And like I said, maybe the key is that you remember having that doll, the figures in that doll form. And so you're going to pick those up. Okay. Then I guess there is value there for you. But in general, like, I think this is a cheat. In fact, the whole collectible culture is really kind of a joke because, and in fact, I'm not the only person that says this. This isn't some kind of original thought on my part, but I agree with it. Is that the instant, and this started happening, I think, in the 90s, the instant that people started putting the word collectible on action figures and toys and whatever else was the instant they no longer held value. That was it. Game over. They missed the point, The reason things are collectible is because, say there weren't many made, or there weren't many that survived, or that there weren't, maybe 2,000 years from now, long after you may be dead, unless, transhumanism takes hold, maybe then it would actually be worth something, because then it's just so damned old it can't not be. Okay. But in the average person's lifetime, and most people aren't expecting transhumanism to solve everything. They're not. Otherwise, I think transhumanism would be already here because there'd be that much interest. Okay. And governments would probably have gone away by now too. Most people are expecting to die, and so what are you holding on to? What are these collectibles doing? I think it's so bad. And it's all about hype. It's all about, making that quick buck. Like, something else that bothers me, I tweeted about this the other day. Every geek website I go to, whatever you want to call it, okay, Think Geek, you name it, they have tons of Doctor Who stuff. Okay. Now, 1998? No. 1992? No, there wasn't tons of Doctor Who stuff. 1989, when the show was still on? No, there wasn't a lot of Doctor Who stuff. It's only now that you have this Doctor Who stuff, and like T-shirts and all this crap. And I'm like, don't people see that the whole thing's a marketing machine, and that like it's not actually, they're not doing this out of the out of the love of the show. Okay. Now, yes, they were doing marketing back in the 70s too with Star Wars. Of course, it was a marketing machine. They had Princess Leia, soap. No shit that's a marketing thing. Fine, whatever. Okay. But now they're just like, they're playing on your nostalgia, charging a premium price for an inferior product. Okay. Or they're schlepping on a fad, because if these people that are coming out with these T-shirts actually cared about Doctor Who and had a passion for Doctor Who, okay, they would have had this stuff in the 90s. There would have been shirts with TARDISes back then. A lot of them. There would have been, this market would have been there. But no, there weren't Doctor Who fans. There weren't a lot of Doctor Who fans back then. But and now whatever, apparently there's a million of them or billions of them. Who knows? So yeah, this is really annoying, and I want to get this out there, because comic books did the same thing. Comic books went through all this stuff, this whole collectible thing, in like hyper speed. Okay, I bought tons of comics, number zeros, number 1/2s, and number 1s, from Wizard that were, these highly collectible, hey, and got him signed by Pat Lee or whatever. And, this is going to be the biggest deal ever. And they're all pretty much worthless. If anything, they're worth maybe $10, which I paid $20 for them from Diamond. You know what I mean? So I guess what I'm saying is just, like so many other things, don't fall for it. Okay. If you're doing it to design your house, okay, fine. You're designing your house, and you want Galactica stuff all over the place. But please don't have the expectation that these things within your lifetime are going to be worth anything. And I think they sell them as that. That's why they use the word collectible, and also don't expect people to be impressed by this stuff, I mean, if if this is you putting your heart on your sleeve saying, I love Galactica, so I'm going to have these, 12-inch dolls or whatever around. I mean, I guess whatever, but I don't see the point, and I'm almost insulted that they can't make at least a new mold for this stuff. Anyway, you can complain about that rant, sovereigntech@riseup.net. Please don't hesitate to also donate to the show if you want to. Bitcoin, Litecoin, ProtoShare, Ethereum, Zerocoin, even though those aren't yet. Maybe they will be soon. Whatever. Carpe Lucem. I love all you guys. See you next week.
This has been Sovryn Tech. Visit us at sovryntech.com. That's SOVRYN tech.com. There you can connect with us, see more of what you've heard on today's show, and catch our podcast feed. Sovryn Tech is open source. We encourage you to share. Later, nerds.